It's a great day to talk hockey with Grant McCagg on Habscast.
Good morning, everyone. Fantastic day to talk hockey. Another hot one here in the nation's capital, Ottawa. I'm in Canada. For those of you tuning in other in other countries, it's a huge day yesterday as far as news goes with the Montreal Canadiens. Apologies, I wasn't able to. I had a medical emergency with my doggo there, Chester. He's um, he's had some tooth infections and they flared up again on the weekend and gums all swollen, could barely see his teeth. So yeah, had to had to rush him in, get some more antibiotics. We're trying to get him stabilized here so he can get his teeth removed, but he's got a heart murmur. So until that improves, not able to put him under. We put him under to have surgery 3 weeks ago, and his heart stopped. So on the operating table. So he's been on heart medication. I guess he will be for life, and we're trying to get him get the ticker working a little better so we can get out the teeth that will stop all these infections. So, anyways, I just was not in the mood when I got home last night to. It took a lot out of me. My vet's an hour and a half away too, and long day. And decided that I would talk about all the Habs news this morning instead of last night. Now, obviously, the biggest thing there was that 14-year vet Brandon Gallagher got traded for future considerations, which basically means nothing. Um, and the Canadians are retaining half of his salary. Now, I think that was everyone kind of expected Vancouver, right? And kudos to the Canadians to make it happen. Like that's not a great return, having to retain 50% of the salary. But that's his hometown, and he goes back home to a team that can use him, where he'll play. You could kind of see the writing on the wall earlier in the day when the Canucks got rid of Niels Höglander, who's kind of the 12th, 13th forward with the Canucks, and now they got rid of him, and Galley can come in and be the replace Höglander in the lineup and be but also bring that character to a dressing room, especially if Elias Pettersson's back. I think they could use some veteran leadership there. Um, you know, Sounds like Pettersson could still uh, uh, do a little bit of growing up, right? So Francois, uh, damn, morning Habcast. I'm not used to this. I'm in the subway and can't watch without using all my data. Oh, there you go. Well, here's a little um, hint for you there. If you are watching it on YouTube, Francois, change the resolution to 144p, and it doesn't use that much data because you don't need 1080p picture, right? Uh, Put it down to 144, and it uses very little data. But sorry about that, Francois. But I may start doing a few 9 a.m. ones. Young lad isn't up then, and I can have full access to the dungeon. Um, why don't I put up while I'm thinking of it here? Get up our banners. Bonish Caves, Next Level Hockey. Um, I'm going to be going there next week, by the way, to Next Level Hockey to give a seminar about scouting, what I know about scouting, what little I do. Uh, Mike was kind enough to invite me as one of his keynote speakers or whatever you want to call it. I'm not used to doing that kind of thing, but I will give it my best shot and hope that I can uh, give some of my 20-year wisdom, scouting wisdom to the fine folks that will be, the parents and young hockey players that will be attending these seminars that Mike will be giving at Next Level Hockey. But back to Gally here. Didn't mean to get off track there. Yeah, Brandon Gallagher is just um, he's look. I can remember back. It was my last year scouting with the Canadians, and there was, uh, he was picked in the mid rounds. I loved it. I mean, I hadn't seen a lot of them, but I did see, some of it on TV there. Gallagher in the playoffs, and he was a warrior. I loved the kid. I thought you know, yeah, he was undersized, but there was lots of jam there. He didn't play his size, and when Trevor made that pick, I had no issues whatsoever. I thought he was a solid pick for the club that year. Vancouver, you know, um, was pretty strong, and he was a big reason for that. But you know, I think the biggest compliment that we could pay Brandon Gallagher is that, in the ensuing years that I scouted, and whenever we talk, I talk with scouts, and um, there was a saying, whenever a 5'9" kid came along, that um, that had that was competitive as hell and didn't back down and played bigger than his size. Scouts, and me included, would always say, well, he's a Brendan Gallagher type. And whenever you can be uh, used as the prototype for a high compliment when it comes to your playing style, that's that just tells you all you need to know about how highly respected Brendan Gallagher in his time with Montreal was in not only the scouting world but the hockey world in general. He's you know um, you can't pay a higher compliment. That Oh well, he's a Brendan Gallagher type. He's a Gallagher. He plays like Brendan Gallagher. He was always the guy used as the example for a small guy that just all heart, right? Go to the front of the net, take all of the abuse, and we saw it. Any of you have fans, and I'm assuming most of you. This includes most of you can remember back to Gallagher's early years, and he would get uh, just uh, cross-checked constantly in front of the net and with no penalties. Like the refs would just gloss it over, just look the other way. Oh, this is fine. He got There had to be 100+ penalties that weren't called that should have been called. I've been watching this World Cup, and I see guys that just barely touched, and they roll on the ground, and there's a yellow card, or there's you know a kick given, and I mean, boy, that wasn't Gallagher. that the complete opposite of Brendan Gallagher's career, especially early on. For whatever reasons, it seemed like referees just didn't like him, or didn't. It took him 5 years before he had the respect of the referees. And it's weird because, like, how could I know fans on other teams and players on other teams, fans of other teams and players on other teams hated him to a certain degree, but you couldn't help but respect. And again, the whole hockey world used him as the example of a guy that was just all heart and soul. And it's funny that the refs took so long, and even later they weren't that. They wouldn't give him the benefit of the doubt a lot of the times on, and then also on goals. Like how many goals in Galley's Montreal career got called back because they ended up saying, "Oh no, he that was goalie interference," and several of them were really, really, very questionable in that regard. He just seemed to be, I don't know, because he was the guy that would pay the price more than anyone. It seemed like they always seemed to go the other way and say, "Oh well, no, it must have been Gallagher being dirty or interfering." We're going to disallow the goal, and that happened. I remember at one point, finally, Galley said something about it, and I think he got fined for it. But I didn't blame him because it was obvious that he did not get fair treatment by the NHL and by the officials, considering just like steady. He wasn't Sean Avery dirty. No, he wasn't. No, he got the one suspension for elbowing somebody one time or something, and that was about it. No, he was the opposite of that. He took abuse like constantly. So no, I complete respect for I was going to say Sean Avery. Complete respect for Brandon Gallagher and his career and how he played. Like he was a total warrior. Um, yeah, the end. I don't like how things ended, but you know, I'm old enough to remember Sir Savard you know, ending his career elsewhere. Guy Lapointe, Guy Lafleur, Larry Robinson. Um, I can go on and on. Players that veteran players who had more story careers that did not end their careers in Montreal, and it always it reminds you back to where it's a business, right? Uh, well, it's a bit. Wow, was a different circumstance. There were reasons behind that, you know, and it wasn't because he got old and gray. It was something completely different. So I don't I don't class how Waugh left with how any of these guys left. They left because Montreal that they were getting older, and Montreal didn't. They made that tough decision to move legendary veterans that had paid the price and won a lot with Montreal because they didn't think that they could help the team. There were younger guys to replace him, right? That wasn't the case with Patty Waugh. Now, I think he'll play regularly in Vancouver because they're a bottom team, and Montreal's was a top four team this year. Um, I would I hope he ends his career on a high note. Now he wants to keep playing. He says, "I don't know. Like I think, you know, but we'll see. We'll see how his year goes. If he gets lots of playing time and he scores 15 goals again, I wouldn't blame him for taking another contract. He obviously loves hockey and probably wants to keep playing. But if it's not if it's kind of similar to this year where he's not really contributing a heck of a lot for the team, looks like he's a step behind a lot, especially later in shifts. I hope he hangs it up after this year and signs a one-day contract with the Canadiens or something to end his career as a Montreal Canadian. Kind of like what I think Plekanec did that or whatever. Yeah. Somebody saying that he'll be in Montreal management soon. Maybe. I don't know. Just the way it ended, I might be a better bet that he ends up in Vancouver management when it's all said and done. But we'll see. I think he loves the city more than he loves the current management at this point. Oh, geez. Okay, I'm gonna have to remove the banners here just a sec. All right. So here Development camp. This is the these are the forwards that have been invited. Dylan Bentley, who of course was picked up. He was picked up last year. He was a college player. Tyler Dekos, who was just drafted by Montreal, 224th overall, the Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the NHL draft. Donovan Frias, who I can't say I know a whole hell of a lot about, but he's 6'4". Massachusetts, there's that pipeline, right? Bob Rov and Gorton live in Massachusetts, and they always bring in, seems like they bring in these Boston area boys every year, whether it's signing them or inviting them to camps. Hey, whatever. Reme Jelena from Hawkesbury, he's there on an invitation. Center from the queue, I would think. Michael Hage, nice to see Hage back. We'll see how much weight he put on. Legkov, Alexander Legkov. Kind of interesting here that they've invited him and Ovcharov, who played in the queue this year. Giacomo Martino, Rick would be happy about that. Got the Paisan invitation. Again, another tryout scenario. Ben Merrill, of course, played drafted late, playing it in the in college hockey. LJ Mooney, that'll be fun to see how 5'7", 159-pound LJ looks there playing. He'll probably be zipping all over the ice as usual. Reed Morich from Scottsdale, 6'2", 214. Another guy on the tryout. Ovcharov, Hayden Papanicus, they got him listed at 6'5", drafted third round last year. Nice to see Gleb and Zurowski both going to be at the camp. Of course, Zurowski is in town, so that's not a surprise, but still, it's a bonus that this year at the development camp, things are loosening up a bit when it comes to relations with the Russians. Hey, it doesn't hurt that the Habs have Bob Rov when it comes to that, right? I think they've developed a good relationship with Dan Milstein, who has most of these guys, and I think it's good that both Gleb and Jarosky will be there getting tutorship from the likes of Adam Nicholas. That it can only help, and getting accustomed to Montreal, even if it's only for a few days. Thomas Rousseau, another kid on the tryout. Wesley Royston, big kid that just got drafted by the WHLer, just got drafted by the Habs in the 190th overall. Logan Sawyer, we'll see how big he is now. I think this is an old listing, 6'1", 188. Hopefully he's a little bigger than that now, I believe so. Parker Trache, Brian Trache's grandson, he'll be there. Drafted 189 in this past draft. Bradley Wasselin, Brady, a little surprised he wasn't picked in the draft, actually. Campbellville, Ontario, and Jarosky, the other selection. So that's a pretty good. Just to go over the guys here. Frias was playing at Yale. Remy Jelena, Clarkson, both of them had 21 points, which isn't bad production at that level. Legkov played in Britain, actually. A Russian playing in England, which is kind of interesting. You don't see that too much. Put up good numbers, so we'll see how he looks. Martino, yet another one of the invites. He was playing Northeastern University. Lots of East Coast invites that playing college hockey. Merrill, of course, was at Boston U. Um, LJ Mooney, University of Minnesota. Reed Morich was Minnesota State. So a lot of these invites are were playing college, which uh, which is kind of cool. Um, Ocharov, of course, was in Quebec and didn't get drafted. We put Quebec Ramparts this year. Rousseau, Sherbrooke, 52 points in 60 games, not too bad. Royston's a big boy with lots of truculence, so that's why they drafted him, folks. And Wasselin, of course, played in for London. He got traded from, or sorry, yeah, he got traded from Niagara to London. 41 points in London. So that's those are the forwards. Some interesting names in there. I'm not. It's not 100% confirmed yet, but I hope to get down for the camp Thursday. I'm not going down Canada Day. Just too much free agency, right? I'm gonna have to do podcasts and follow all the potential trades, free agent signings and stuff. Um, just it doesn't. I wish they didn't freaking have the first day of scrimmaging and practice on Canada Day, but they seem to be. That's the. I guess because kids that were just drafted, it's easier for them just to come to Montreal right after the draft, and logistically for the kids, it makes more sense. For the fans, though, it kind of sucks. Why Canada Day, you have the development camp. What do you got to be a pretty diehard fan as well. For Canada Day, I'm going to go sit in a 32-degree day. Uh, I'm going to go sit in a cold arena to watch kids for a couple hours. A hard sell for a lot of wives, anyways. You're doing what? Yeah, I'm gonna go to this camp. See, bunch of kids, not even play a game, just throw the pucks around for. Oh, okay, you do that then. But Thursday, I'm seeing if I can't get it arranged. What I would do if I do come down is get a remote set up afterwards and talk about all the players because there's some kids I'd like to see it, and see how their progress has been, but then see the Russians too. Hage, see how. Uh, Believe me, Hage will be pretty good in that scrimmage. In that scrimmage, I'd say he should stand out. It'll be it'd be fun to see that. But um, let's get to the D man here. Um, there we go. I will just what I'm the one uh, invite here that I'm excited, especially excited to see will be Bergquist. It's nice to see him coming over. Rasmus Bergquist. He is a nice looking prospect. I might even think like all of the defensemen they drafted in this past draft. I'm not sure any of them. I like any of them better than Bergquist at this point. Um, by the way, I did a video on Klimke. I'll be putting it up on my Patreon page. If you haven't subscribed yet, all sorts of info on there. I would highly recommend. Like I'll be doing all videos and all of the draft picks that will be exclusively on Patreon, and for $5 Canadian. I think it's $4 in the US, $3.50 in Europe per month. Pretty cheap. So um, look for my scouting videos. I'll be putting Klimke's up today. I'll be looking at Cleves, putting that up. Yeah, I don't have a life. Beautiful summertime weather, and here I am doing scouting videos. But hey, the work never stops, right? Cooper Cleves, um, Dartmouth College, of course. He's a 6'4" D man. That's my next video to look at. I've scouted him before. I thought he was going to be picked last year. Actually, it was kind of a surprise that he got passed over. Of course, he's been at a camp before, and Montreal liked what they saw, and probably got to know him. And this year picked him pretty high in the draft, considering his age, being a 20-year-old. Um, Jean Samuel Daignon will be there. He played in Muskegon. Aiden Dubinsky, uh, he was one of the additions to Laval at the end of last season. He's a free agent. Carlos Handel. We'll see how he looks. He played in Halifax this year. Thought that he'd make a bigger jump offensively. He only ended up with 22 points, 3 goals. But hopefully he's gotten a little stronger. Listed at 176 pounds last year. I think these are old weights, so here's hoping he's up to about 185 at least, maybe 190. Braden Klimke just got drafted 117th overall, playing in Saskatoon. I've got a video that I've just finished. I'll be putting up scouting notes and video on Klimke on Patreon later on today. Andrew McNeil, big tough defenseman with the Memorial Cup winning Kitchener Rangers. Not much offense, but he's tough. He's a tough kid. Bryce Pickford, there's one that will be exciting to watch. He's under contract. Him and Protz are the only players under contract with the Habs that are at this camp, which is interesting. But he'll be, so much for him having shoulder surgery, right? He went to a camp in Florida for 2 months for 2 weeks, and now he's at Montreal's camp. If he was having shoulder surgery, folks, he wouldn't be going to all these camps. So some incorrect inside info that was Scott Wheeler put out there. Owen Protz, the Protzy, he they had a very good year in Brantford. Probably should have won the East. They kind of got surprised in the Eastern Finals there, but he turns pro this year, and it'll be nice to see his progress. Tim Runso, of course, second-round pick by the Habs, played in Victoria, WHL. He's got one more year of junior left, but we'll see. We'll get a look to see how he is coming along. Another invitation, Nolan Stevenson, who played in Penticton in the BCHL. Good stats, 11 goals, 35 assists for a defenseman. That's pretty good. We'll see how he looks at the draft. He, of course, an 05, so he wouldn't have been eligible. Last year was his last year of eligibility. Max Szuber, another guy that will be interesting to look at. Only listed at 6'1", eh? Well, he's 212 pounds. He's a big boy. May not be real tall, but Bemidji State University, 6 goals. He looked good. I don't mind Max Szuber. He was a rookie this year in college, and not a bad-looking prospect. We'll see how he looks at this camp. The goalies invited, Alexei Cornwallis, of course, it was a Cornell University. Emmett Croteau, he had a really good breakout season, 193 goals against average, 922 save percentage. He made a step this year. Of course, he was drafted 162 overall in 2022. He's now he's turning 23 in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how he looks. He played in the Ivy League just like Cornwallis. They were both Ivy Leaguers this year. Max Lacroix, he's in a tryout. He was at Boston College, only played 4 games. Another one of those Boston area invites. Quentin Miller, Canton Miller at Denver. He looked pretty good. You know, when Johnny Hicks was down with injury, he stepped in as a starter and performed pretty well in Denver. Uh, Radkov, of course, he started with Blainville, ended up being traded to St. John. Very underwhelming stats. He hasn't really lived up to being a third round pick as of yet, but goalies can take time. And then, of course, Mikas McVanags. He played actually for Latvia at the World Championships, but 798 goals against average there, 0.805 save percentage was not great. Played for Victoria in the BCHL this past season. Also played 6 games in Newfoundland, but yeah, those are it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see Cornway in particular. I think he's the prize goalie prospect out of that group. And how old is Cornway now? He's 20. Will be turning 21 in December. So those are the invites to the prospect camp. And hey, let me know if any of you are planning on going. Also, maybe if I do come down and I do a remote, I'll talk to McLean's Pub and Cunningham's and see if maybe one of them, we can arrange something where one of these, they have I can do a remote and talk about all the prospects if I do come down on Thursday. But let me know, any of you, that if you think that you might be able to to join me, come to either Cunningham's or McLean's, if I can get it arranged. If I can, I'll come down on Thursday and go to the camp. And I mean, that would be fun. So all right, let's get to a couple of your questions here. Sheldon, it must be early in Winnipeg. 8:30. You having your coffee? I'm having one here. Is something big brewing? I feel like something big is brewing. Yeah. Well, Rick's got to talk about not about an Italian here. Rick. Good morning, Rick. Marco Marciano will be working hard to develop a training program for the very unorthodox goaltender in Emmett Croteau. Yeah, he is unorthodox. Remember we did the video on him? It's like, what the hell? Yosemite Saddam, are you going? Is anybody that's on here planning on going to the scrimmage on Thursday? If so, let me know and you can say good day. And I hope none of you come up to me. The last camp I went to, the very first, a few people recognized me, not that many, but the first person that said something to me, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here's a fan, and he says, "You blocked me on Twitter. Why did you block me on Twitter?" he shows up at the thing uh, just to razz me about having blocked him on Twitter. I said, "Well, I blocked you. It's probably a good reason." And oh, okay. I think I don't know. He expected a smaller guy or something. He didn't. There was no more to it than that. Um, he didn't get more aggressive after that. Will the Habs go for Crosby? Hmm. Uh, I don't think so. Not at this point. Crosby's not. the Pens, had a lot of skill this year, this summer, and also made some trades and stuff. They're trying to they're trying to keep Sid happy. I don't, the guys that play in the same organization for 2 decades, that are revered and absolutely idolized in the town. Like, he's a Pittsburgher now, right? I mean, you spend 20 years there. Uh, I'd be surprised if he moves on. But I mean, hey, if Pittsburgh looks like they're well out of it again, mind you, last year they were right there. They came damn close to making the playoffs. Um, but if they're really bad this year, and if at the trade deadline they're far out of it, maybe. But right now, no. Uh, it's not that the Canadians wouldn't go for Crosby. It's Pittsburgh's not going to actively try to move him. Certainly not at this point. We don't have a heck of a lot of people tuning in. I didn't think 9 a.m. and without much notice we'd get a big crowd, live crowd, but people will watch this afterwards, I hope. Uh, Hit the like button, please. If you haven't subscribed already, I think we're up to 4920. So my hope was at the draft to get to 5,000 subscribers. We're 80 short. So I was hoping by July 1st, maybe maybe by the end of tomorrow, we can get it up to 5,000. Is that possible? If you haven't subscribed already, if you're watching on X and you're not a subscriber, come on over, join the live chat here. Uh, we welcome everybody. We've got the best Habs community, I think, in the podcasting world. Um, great, a great fan base here that is very respectful. For the most part, there's the odd troll always comes in, but this isn't anything like an HF boards or Twitter. It's not toxic on here, and anyone that is an asshole, just ban them. Like, I've got the power. So join us on a live chat. Hit that like button, but most of all, hit the subscribe, because we're really trying to get to 5,000. It's funny, the video I did the other day, like, you get stats, right? Stats for videos. I was -3 subscribers because, people don't like when you're truthful sometimes about, hey, I told it like it was. Like Pugachev, uh, I don't see a top six player there, but that's fine. You know, if he's a fourth liner, Montreal could have the biggest, roughest, toughest fourth line. Hey, Montreal had the best fourth line in the playoffs in 2021, was it? Where they went to the final. It's important. It's important to have a good, like a role defining, tough, big puck possession fourth line. If you can get a fourth line that goes out there, keeps the puck, keeps cycling the puck, hammers the defenseman, softens them up for the skilled lines, that's good. That's really good. It's an important piece in in winning 4 rounds at playoff time. So, you know, yeah, moving up in the first round to pick a guy that might be a fourth liner isn't what you typically do. And I was critical of it, but still, at that same time, uh, I get it. I get why the Canadians did that. I get why the Canadians are at a point like we've seen it with teams like Tampa and Florida and Colorado, on and on. These teams, they don't have real fruitful drafts. They're picking late. They don't have all their picks usually. Uh, a lot of these teams the last few years, there hasn't the draft hasn't borne a lot of fruit for them. But at the same time, they do, if they've got you know, they're a little more uh, prone to try to draft for need if because they've only got a couple of spots typically. If you're a contender, you don't have a whole bunch of holes to fill usually. You've got two or three like a missing piece, let's say, oh well, we need a little more toughness. Well, they'll try to, they'll maybe go a little more for need than what might necessarily be the most skilled player with their top pick, for instance. And Montreal did that this year because I mean, you look at Montreal's top six going forward, there aren't a lot of spots, right? I mean, second line center is the only real spot that kind of that you can look at. But I think Hage has all the potential to fill that. Um, People aren't going to agree with this, but Kirby Dach is still in the discussion to be Montreal's second line center. He's still only mid 20s. uh, uh, let's talk about Kirby Dach. There were there were 8 qualifying offers given, and one of them was not Joe Veleno, by the way. Hey, Joe, kudos to him. He did everything to ask for him. He rounded out his game somewhat. He looks like a serviceable 12th, 13th forward in the NHL. Maybe like he goes to a team that's not quite as strong as Montreal, that doesn't have quite as many good young players. They can't like. I think Montreal's going to add a player or two here, and they do that. Then it almost comes down to a roster spot for Kapanen or Veleno. Well, who's got the more upside going forward? Who's the younger player? Who's the guy that needs that 2 years from now will be, well, even next year will be better player, and that's Oliver Kapanen. So do you, like, if you give a contract to Joe Veleno, he's going to be on the big club, and that's the spot that would, where does Oliver Kapanen go, right? You're not going to freaking lose him on waivers. So it didn't, just because the Canadians are a strong team. Gallagher had to go, Veleno had to go. It opens up a spot for the Canes to add a player or two. It also gives, you know, I mean, if Line, Gallagher, and Veleno were there, Beck, Jack Eye, and all these young guys that are fight, they wouldn't have a chance of getting a roster spot. So now there will be a couple of, you want the young players to think that they have an opportunity to win a spot, and uh, this affords that opportunity for Beck and Jack High and stuff to, and so on, to push for a roster spot. But the Canadians extended qualifying offers to uh, Brett Berard, who they just traded for, so no surprise there. Zachary Bolduc, Kirby Dach, Jared Davidson, Sean Farrell, Hunter McCowan, and then defenseman Max Szuber, who they just dealt for, and Arbor Jacki, preserving their negotiating rights. Veleno, Jake Chason, and Gannon Larocque were not qualified. No surprise there. Apparently, the Habs have 14 million in cap space, so there's room there to try to obtain a second line forward or two. Now, who will they target? Marchment's possibility. I think Torovchenko is a possibility. I think they would like to add, you know, Pugachev's not going to be ready, but someone in that mold to the bottom six that can add some size and truculence to the bottom six. They need another Josh Anderson type. Torovchenko is a possibility, as I said. Uh, Somebody, Ashley, I think Ashley, asked me on Twitter if the Canadians might consider. Oh, AJ Greer's gone, by the way. He got traded. Uh, might consider Trennan, 400 hits or something. Yeah, I mean a big boy. There's a possibility there. If they Zuccarello could be, talked about that with Rick the other day. Doesn't bring the size, but he could play in on the second line. He's like a Rick, like over 82 games the last 5 years. He's averaging about 50 assists. So uh, really good playmaker. Maybe and competes his ass off. Maybe they look at bringing him in Zuccarello as a placeholder until the likes of Hage and maybe Jarosky are ready to push for top six spots. But Marchenko's a possibility. Not a real rough and tough guy, but big, and a big 60-point scorer in the top six wouldn't be a bad ad for sure. But I don't think they want to break the bank to get him either. Uh, Still looking to add a winger if no trade is found. I think they're looking more to add a center in the top six if they can, but then uh, I think a bottom six winger, but maybe a second line winger as well, maybe two. So with with the removal of Gallagher, Valeno, and Line A, they are opening up a couple of potential positions here to add a a winger and maybe a center. Now, good luck to Willie Trudeau, Luke Tuck, even Waugh on their new teams. Even Waugh. Yes, Joshua Waugh got traded for Maximilian Zuber, 6'3" left defenseman. Galley will be a good ad in Vancouver room that needs a character guy. Yep, echoing what I said. It's 11:40 p.m. here. Struggling to sleep due to the flu. Well, sorry to hear that, Joe. Uh, yeah, not that. It's a pretty underwhelming unqualified list, really. Don't mind Cotter. He'll get some consideration. Kurashev, I don't know. He's what, 5'10". Yeah, don't see him being a target for the Habs. He's certainly not going to play in their top six. Some kids were, they might look at Michelli, maybe. He had a down year, but he was, you know, before going to Toronto. Well, they thought he was going to replace freaking, you know, he was supposed to replace Marner. But anyway, yeah, he had a 57-point season, 49, 57 back to back in Arizona. And then not sure what happened the last 2 years, but uh, somebody might look at him. He's only 25, right? Uh, he's kind of maybe the one of the more interesting potential pickups as a UFA, but or an RFA. Sorry, uh, but Joshua Waugh. Well, hey, that just goes to show you, right? When you look at it, hey, people had him penciled in as a second line winger 2 or 3 years ago, and it's more of a nod to just how much the Canadians have improved and in the last few years than it is that it's all on Raw. It's a numbers game, right? And he there's better prospects now. Also, he didn't last year. He came to camp. I don't know if he was in 100% in good shape, and yeah, he did have a spot. There was a spot there for him. He kind of blew it. Didn't have a good camp, and he's never really recovered from that. Uh, we saw signs of his defensive game coming along in his last year of junior, and he played a kind of a third line role at the World Juniors, and you thought, okay, he's getting it that he's got to play better and work harder away from the puck, and then we didn't really see progress in that regard the last 2 years. So, uh, and then his offensive stats didn't improve. So he kind of, he got stuck in neutral there, and it was quite apparent that he wasn't going to um, make the Canadians. So you move on from these guys. You weren't going to qualify them. You might as well get something for them. The Szuber kid. I have a video here to show, and I'll comment on him as we go along. Um, Bolduc, interesting that he got a qualifying offer, but hey, he didn't exactly set the house on fire. So he's got to. It, it's probably the route to go. If he puts in a good year this year, then he can get a nice big contract. But wait and see kind of thing with him. Davidson, yeah, I'm glad he got another deal because there's some potential there. Farrell, I wasn't sure if he'd get a qualifying offer, but hey, he's improved offensively in the AHL every year. Look for him to be maybe one of the top scorers in the AHL this year. He is a good offensive AHLer. Give him another deal. And Hunter McCown and Szuber, well, they just dealt for them. So of course they were going to give them contracts and see if they can develop in Montreal. Kirby Dach obviously is the one that people, and I've been saying, if you've been watching the podcast, that they have to and they will um, qualify Kirby Dach. Look, they traded for him. They traded, a good defenseman in Alex Romanov, uh, and another draft pick to get a guy that was a third overall pick. Look, if Kirby Dach hadn't been chosen third overall in the draft, if the Habs hadn't traded, what turned out to be 13th overall pick only 3 or 4 years ago to get him, then they probably wouldn't have qualified him for $4 million. But at the end of the day, he's still a 6'4" guy that was a third overall pick that's in his mid-20s that is recovering from two serious knee injuries, and anyone that follows hockey knows that it can typically takes 2 years to be back 100% from a knee injury. He couldn't train that hard, his legs that hard 2 years ago. He was noticeably in better shape last fall when he came to camp. One more good hard, because this is a huge year for him, right? One more good off season this year, better shape, knees 100%. Uh, there's still potential for him to be a good NHLer, like an impactful middle line forward. Well, 4 million is with the cap going up. 4 million is under the average salary in the NHL. If you know if Doc can show that he's a 40-50 point middle line guy that plays decent defense, I mean, he can do all those things. He's got that potential. He was on pace for 50 at 22 before these knee injuries. Then 4 million under the league average is actually a good deal. And look, they didn't want to lose this asset for nothing. 4 million isn't, it's not like it's eight. It's what, 2% of the cap. space or something like that. So it's not, you know, it's not a huge investment money wise. And his trade value right now is low, right? So what they're going to do here is say, okay, Kirby, we're giving you one more year. Like they're not going to sign him to a 2 or 3 year contract. They're going to, and I'm sure he'll take the qualifying offer. Like he's not in a position to say, oh no, we're going to arbitration. Well, you had 15 points last, 15 points the last 2 years or whatever it is. No, you're not going to win that. And his agent will know that. Well, you know, you hope that the player that they thought they were going to get is, he's fully recovered from the knee injuries. He's in even better shape. He uh, he wins a spot and plays well, and even you know, like if he plays half decently, and and it comes to the trade deadline, and they think, well, okay, he's upped his trade value here. We've got someone else that we like more that maybe is more consistently competitive or whatever. But his trade value is at least gone up, right? There'll be a team out there saying, well, second year after a knee injury, he's improved. He was a third overall pick. You could get a decent return for him if that's the route that they want to go at the trade deadline. But right now, he's still an asset and one that potentially could bring value. Uh, Dylan Strome's a good example, right? He went to one team, went another. He was inconsistent. He wasn't living up to the top three pick, 6'3" center, wasn't living up to his potential. But mid-20s, third team, he got it together, and now he's a top two center on the Washington Capitals, and you know, uh, impactful center in the NHL. Well, that's still a possible path for Kirby Dach. You know, sometimes, and especially after 2 years of major injuries, yeah, it's an excuse, but it's a viable excuse for why he hasn't developed as hoped. So to me, all of those factors, yeah, he drives you crazy with the inconsistency. Yeah, you want more from him. Yes, you could use more production. But the fact of the matter is, there's still that potential that maybe this year light switch could go off. He could be fully recovered and has that little extra step. Part of the reason why he seems so lazy at times, I think, is just still not 100%, right? Stamina still not up to what it needs to be. And it's not necessarily lack of effort more than it just is that conditioning wise, he still needs that one more summer of good off-season training to get into because you got to be in premium shape to be an impactful player at the NHL level. Doesn't matter how skilled you are, you got to be. Conditioning is just such a big factor. So I'm not surprised that they qualified him. It for all of the reasons that I've listed. It was it just it's the it's the decision that made the most sense. And yes, I know at least half of the Montreal's fan base and probably more say, "Oh, why qualify him? He's a bum, this and that." Well, because there's still that hope that he can reach his potential, and even if it's just to trade him at the trade deadline this year, he's still RFA or whatever. Go to another organization and get a decent return for him. They weren't going to get that this summer, so um, it made sense. And here's hoping that it comes to, because you know what? Like if he does reach his potential, there's your second line center. Like that's still his upside. He could be, if he does reach his friggin' potential, he could be the second line center, the 6'4" one. Look, 3 years ago before his injury, he was playing really well defensively. He came back, supported the defense, got back. I mean, he's really, he's got the size to rub out opposing centers and you know keep them away from the crease. Uh, there was lots of times he was almost like the third defenseman back there. I was really impressed with how his defensive game was coming along, and then the injury happened, and he, you know, when he did come back, I think they made the mistake of keeping him as a second line center, and even though he wasn't in shape to do it and struggled mightily, lost his confidence, and they kept running him out there because they didn't feel they had a better option, and it was a mistake. And then he ended up re-injuring his knee. The rest was history. But to his credit, he did come back last year in better shape. Got injured again, which set him back a little bit. Uh, you know, I know people will talk about, well, uh, injuries. He's injury prone. Well, okay, yes, but if he gets injured, you bring somebody else in, and again, it's a below the league average salary. Not much, but it is, and it just it just made sense to just from an asset. You know, these guys are all assets. It just made sense to qualify him and hope that we finally see the Kirby Dach that Kent Hughes traded for 4 years ago at the draft. Cunningham's after 4 on Thursday would be interesting. Yeah, okay. All right, Don. Well, I might maybe I'll see. I'll talk to the boss there and see if we can't maybe arrange something. A show in the morning. Galley will be missed, but not Jay Waugh. Well, I'm not going to do a tribute video of Jay, of Joshua Waugh, but hey, he was a fourth round pick, right? Most fourth round picks don't make it. Bit of a tweener. We've seen them before. Charles Houdon was one. He's not the biggest guy in the world and not the most truculent, and just you know not it's a fine line between the NHL and being a good productive AHLer, and that's right now that's what he is. I kind of like Paul Cotter. Yeah, yeah, that was, if there was one guy that I looked at that list and said, bottom six, maybe up and down winger, good size. Yeah, yeah, I'd look at Paul Cotter. Do you see a guy like Giroux, Jenner, or Tarasenko as a plan B or C? Uh, I still expect Giroux to sign in Ottawa, but if he doesn't, second line with placeholder type guy uh, um, for Demidov. Yeah, and I'm sure Giroux wouldn't mind playing in the French market. My grandson just subscribed. Right on. Listen, get your grandparents, get your nieces, get your grandnieces, get your siblings to subscribe. I would appreciate it. Thank you, Sheldon, for getting on that for me. Excellent analysis on Doc Grant. Thank you, Sheldon. Holloway isn't a free agent. Yeah, no, well, that's right. He costs a little more than what Cotter's going to cost there, Simo. That's, I think, the point that VDoc was making. Well, made his bed now. He'll be waking it up in Utah. Yeah, if. Hey, there's ifs. But again, GB, Doc, it's $4 million. It's a $4 million risk. You know, we're not talking 10% of the salary cap on the Habs. It's 2%. So yeah, if hey, if Kirby Dach reaches his potential, $4 million is a friggin' bargain, huge bargain. So yeah, if he didn't get injured for 2 straight years, there'd be less if. But you can't just ignore the fact that he had 2 major knee injuries. He did. So there are extenuating circumstances to why he hasn't reached his potential yet. A lot of it has to do with conditioning, because for good reason. You can't practice. You can't skate when you've got a freaking torn MCL and ACL. Like you saw pictures of his legs 2 summers ago. Like there was not a lot of definition there because, hey, you're freaking sitting on a couch with a cast for 6 months or whatever. Like, yeah. We're just finishing redoing my patio blocks today. Oh, got the young lad doing the digging, I hope. Morning all, hoping to see some action in the next few days. I hope we can say it. AJ Greer just got traded, I do believe. Uh, you don't trade for the guy and then not sign him, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but there's still going to always be, I think it's a name I see more often than any is AJ Greer. I don't know. I'm not. They acquired the signing rights. Yeah, in exchange for the signing rights to Gudas. So what that means is that they're going to sign him. So the AJ Greer ship has sailed, folks. But people still bringing him up. I was kind of thinking about Tarasenko too. Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't think Tarasenko would be the guy with target size and jab. Yeah. Or a little more consistency. I'm not too high on that particular player. All right, let's have a look at Szuber here.
Puck fish free by Colorado. Moved ahead left wing side. Fetty.
Let's move that and add this. All right. I'm just going to, Sammy, I know what it means. What it means is that they're going to sign him. If they look, you not think that the agents, I know they're not supposed to, but they don't talk. And, if they traded the negotiating rights, it's not like we're talking about having to sign a $10-12 million deal. Like, I'd say it's 99% that he's going to sign with them. So let's, can we finally move on from the AJ Greer? It's just, dude, don't be expecting it. That's all I'm saying. All right, here's Szuber. He's 55. First thing you'll notice that if you wanted to describe his skating, I'd say lumbering. He's not particularly quick. decent puck mover, though. I don't mind his puck moving, and he had a few points this year. So, but you see the range. He's, and his agility, his pivots aren't bad. He's just not very fast. There is a bit of, I don't know, a bit of Kovacevic kind of, and I think maybe that's their hope, right? Kovacevic, mid-20s, kind of, it was finally, and this guy's only 23, so there is a kind of, that wasn't a great pass, but there is a little bit of Kovacevic type in this guy, albeit not as physical. But there you can see he's listed at 6'3", and he's at least that, and a long stick too, very good reach. You saw a couple of um, he's got an active stick, so he got it in on the checked guys a couple of times there pretty adeptly. So he makes up for that lack of quickness off the mark with with good range and an active stick. And there you see he was on. Not sure why he was up so far on that play and not covering the winger in the slot, which is where he should probably be, clearing the front of the net. But it happens. Here he joins the rush. Once he gets going, he got a bit of, he can move okay, but it's the quickness. The first three steps that just aren't going to be great. Seems to clear the puck relatively, mistake free. Although, well, there he was, he wasn't expecting that turnover. Can't blame him on that. He got it over, almost threw it in front of the net, but he did get it over. Don't be expecting an NHL guy here. He's a left defenseman, right? So basically, they're looking at him as a replacement for William Trudeau. Brings more size. I don't know if maybe they hope that he's the next Paquette Bisson or something. I don't know. Like, just hey, you weren't going to get an NHL, a blue chip NHL prospect for Joshua Waugh, but you can see there he's got good range. It went over to the other side, and he's got that long active stick, and he got it in a way there. Yes, Renaissance. That's the deal. That's the thing, right? At 23, there's a lot. In fact, their prime really is 27 to 32, really, for most defensemen. You look at Petrie, you look at like a lot of, he was 28 before he reached it. Matheson, 27. A lot of them, hey, it's, the pro game, it takes a lot of adjusting. You typically need at least 300 pro games to find your footing, and Szuber wouldn't be at the 300, close to the 300 game mark yet. Here he comes up on the, like I say, once he gets going, there's some speed there. Doesn't mind joining the rush. Here he's in on the, trying to get a goal. But I don't mind him. He'll be a decent AHL defenseman, and then at 23, if the development can continue, if he can maybe get a little faster, there's some upside there. So I remember scouting him in his draft year. Played for Germany, some international tournaments, and you noticed him out there. Just the skating isn't tremendous. And you see here some of those outlet passes don't end up really clicking. So that's something he'll need to keep tidying up at this level. There is a bit of physicality there. He rubs out some guys. So, and here he is clearing the crease or trying to. Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind this guy, and I think with Middlestat, picking up Middlestat, they really like him. They freaking played him, quite a bit, and kind of they figured, well, Trudeau, we won't re-sign Trudeau. We'll keep developing Middlestat. We'll develop this guy. Who knows? Maybe one of the two can fetch an asset down the road for the club, or perhaps even get some NHL games at some point. You never say never with a defense prospect. And yeah, that's just most of these highlights are defensive oriented. There he blocks the shot. He's got some shot blocking capabilities. Again, reminded a little bit of Kovacevic, that type, right? And at 23, Kovacevic was, they thought they'd scored there, but they didn't. And he got his stick in there and actually kept the puck out. But at 23, Kovacevic was still right. He needed a couple more years in the AHL, and who knows? Maybe he certainly brings the size factor. He's got some, puts up a few points, so there's a little bit of offense there. He's got a little bit of, some physicality. Here, I like this. Look at this pass here. That was a nice trio of passes. So there is some, puck. He's not bereft of skill by any means. There he had a bit of a tire blowout, but there was a nice little shift. But then that was kind of a tricky pass that ended up going in front of his own net. I mean, it was he put it on the guy's stick, but if he fumbled it, and he did, then it was dangerous. But here you see, there's a nice, again, accepted the pass well and got the puck out properly. No glaring errors in this, so I don't think, he's got decent IQ, decent decision making. Just everything basically, other than his first three steps, is decent. So Laval picked themselves up a serviceable shutdown type defender for their club over the next couple of years, and see if the development can continue. There, he rubs the guy out. It wasn't, he's not Pugachev out there. He's not going to run guys through the boards, but yeah, don't mind how he boxes out, utilizes that big frame. So there, that's a look at. I think we've seen enough. You know what you're getting there. They got an asset for Joshua. They weren't. They didn't have long-term plans for him, and that's no surprise. There's 12 forward roster spots. The Canadians don't have many openings. There's some other players that jumped ahead of him on the depth chart, including Brandon Davidson, because he brings elements that might win him a spot in the bottom 6 down the road. So would I trade Dobson for Marchenko? They're not going to be trading Dobson. It's not would I do it, it's would they do it. That's and actually no. The answer is no. I wouldn't do it either. It's what made Reinbacher so impressive to me. Watched him play the Marlies a few times this year. He looked like a long-term vet. Great upside on that kid. Yeah, the Canadians have been, they've been tempering their comments on him. I think they want to motivate him. Say, hey, look, kid, there's not a guaranteed spot for you next camp, and you better come in and take the bull by the horns. And a little bit of tough love there, and I guess that might be the right approach with him. Maybe he can, maybe he comes across as a bit casual to them at times, and they don't want casual. They want him to, to be assertive, a little more assertive. So that's good. I don't mind that from him. But that was a look at Max Szuber. Good luck to Josh with Utah. If anybody, somebody that's pretty good at motivating people and being matter of factly is Andre Tournier. And I wish Josh all the best with his new opportunity in Utah. But next level hockey. I'm going down next week for a seminar. We haven't booked the exact date yet, but I'll let you folks know. Specialist in hockey development trusted by NHL prospects. Whether you're looking to elevate your shooting, skating, stick handling, or overall game, NLH is here to take your game to the next level. Visit them at nextlevelhockey.com and follow their Instagram at nextlevelhockey_ for daily tips, posts, and updates. If you or someone you know have young, aspiring hockey players who want to elevate their game, trust Next Level Hockey to guide them forward. Next Level Hockey. It's in the name. We're also sponsored by Monashare Caves, Eganville, Ontario. Private family-owned business run by hockey fans. Here is a look at the caves. There's Caveman Chris with his wife. The bonasharecaves.com is the website. Check it out. They've got a lot of great videos in there. There's planking throughout the caves, lighting. It's really well done. Guided tours, and they're fantastic. Go up to Bonashare Caves in Eganville, about an hour from Ottawa, and you won't be disappointed. There's Chris holding up a copy of my book. I left 200 copies there. It's Valley Snapshots, notable players from the Upper Ottawa Valley. That's typically in a bookstore, you'd be looking at, it's a glossy, beautiful book. You'd be looking at $40. Well, if you go to Bonashare Caves this summer, book a $25 tour for adults, 15 for kids, you get a free Valley Snapshots book. Just ask for it and they'll give you one. So can't beat that deal, folks. I hope you can make it out to Bonashare Caves, Eganville, Ontario, for a really cool tourist destination this summer. And when I say cool, I mean that literally. It's cool in there. It's on a hot day, it's cool. Probably 18 degrees all the time, or whatever, something like that. All right. Somebody saying that Joshua Waugh was a ghost in the playoffs. Yeah, he wasn't. He wasn't the best in the playoffs, and I think that kind of sealed it, right? Kind of sealed it for them. Yeah. What else? We got other news there? Anything happening? Oh, Pugachev said something about said something about Tom Wilson. They asked him about facing Tom Wilson. He said he'd end him or something like that. That's fine and dandy. I mean, I guess, hey, I remember McCarron when asked about Lucic, and well, I'll just I'll pound him or whatever. Hey, I guess it's good to be confident, but
Отбор за нижегородцами. Жесткое столкновение.
oh, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Tommy Wilson can fight.
Отбор за
Here's
нижегородцами.
here were the two misconducts that he got last
Жесткое
year.
столкновение.
I was looking to see if there was any majors.
Здесь тоже без
This
нарушения
is,
правил, но уже лежит на льду и держится,
And this is
получив
for hitting the guy up
рассечение.
high, blood in the mouth.
Максим
He got
Сахаров,
game
здоровье
misconduct.
Максиму,
25
капает
minutes
кровь
penalties,
просто с его лица, очень
No fight in that one. That was
неприятно.
just
И сейчас у нас
for
будет
hitting the
небольшая
guy.
пауза, вызванная техническими моментами,
Fight
должны
in the dirty. He's got
почистить,
some dirt to him. He's going to have to learn how to fight because he,
давайте выражаться так,
as we'll see by
элементы борьбы.
here's the
И, может быть,
video again.
да, столкновение.
The
Сказать,
guy
что оно
was
здесь было
vulnerable.
умышленным.
Probably might be.
Ну, слушайте,
Potential guy.
конечно, если говорить про команду кандидата хоккейной лиги, действительно, там может быть разница есть.
3 runs ago.
Опасно, какой-то серьезный силовой прием. У нас тут вступается команда Ирбиса.
Ну, это какой-то жестокий был прием, мне кажется.
But, I haven't seen any signs that he's a willing fighter. Now, there aren't a lot of fights in Russia, but at the same time, there is the odd one. And when you play the style that he does, especially in North America, there's going to be guys that challenge him to fight fairly often because he doesn't care if you got your back turned near the boards. He's going to drive you into him. It's going to end up hurting guys. He's going to end up getting challenged. He's going to end up probably get suspended down the road. He's going to be not liked by other teams. Yeah, the Canadians could use that, but at the same time, he'll be, he'll be challenged. And so hopefully Arbor and company teach him a few tricks here because with his style of play, maybe in Russia they don't drop the gloves too often. If that was if those two hits had been in a AHL game, he'd had no choice. He'd be getting, somebody be just rocking him. So that will be a part of his game that he'll have to address down the road. Maybe he's a great scrapper. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I looked through the past 2 seasons. Haven't seen him in a single fight. So I don't know if he can fight or not. But certainly, when asked about it, apparently he can pound Tom Wilson. So, you like the confidence in the guy. Now, is it necessarily going to come true? I don't know. Mike McCarron said he'd pound Lucic, and that, we never saw that, right? So it's the right answer if you want to, oh, well, that kid's confident and good for him. But saying and doing aren't always, are two different things. So we'll have a better idea when Pugachev hits the North American game. Probably, we might see him in a couple of scraps in the KHL over the next couple of years. I wouldn't doubt it because he does play, no prisoners type. Doesn't matter if your back's turned. He's going to drive you into the boards, and it may not result in a lot of pushback at the Russian level necessarily, but certainly in North America, it'll be a different story. Hopefully he can really defend himself, and maybe who knows, maybe he'll end up being a a very good fighter. You can probably count on one hand, Russian players that came to the NHL and were really good fighters, like certainly all-time best fighters in the NHL. Don't think there'd be a Russian maybe in the top 50. Perhaps I'm wrong, but not noted. Well, they don't, North American guys and especially Canadian guys, they kind of grew up with it, right? They fought, minor hockey, junior hockey, their practice makes perfect. So, but mind you, a kid from the US who I talked to him about scrapping because I saw him lay a lot of big hits in college, and that was Jaden Struble. But he told me, in an interview before he joined the pros, that no, he had never been in a fight on the ice in minor hockey or in college, but he assured me that he could handle himself. Like he had been in scraps and you know in sneakers, whatever, street fights or whatever, school, and he was right. He could handle himself, and he's shown that at the pro level that he's got a very good punch. But we'll see with Pugachev. Yeah, I think I got the spelling right finally. That's Chyov. I'm curious to know whether it ends up being Pugachev, and then to get rid of because there's two spellings for a lot of some. When it's spelled YOV, it can also be spelled EV, which is different, but I'm assuming that most of the spellings I've seen, you see it YOV. But I've also saw games in Russia where, the lettering on his back, a lot of times it's not in Cyrillic, and I've seen it YOV and I've seen it EV, both in Russia. So even they don't know for sure which is the definitive way of spelling Pugachev, or anyway. I'm sure we'll get that all straightened out before he's playing at the NHL level. What else do we have to talk about? That pretty well wraps it up, I think. I think the young lad might be up and wanting to come down and do a little gaming before he has to go to work. We're supposed to have landscaper drop by and fix some mistakes that they made when they were here a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't heard from them. We'll see. I think I covered everything. As I say, the big news I think is Brandon Gallagher moving on, and hey, what a great representative of heart and soul hockey. As I noted at the top, just a guy that in the scouting world we all said, hey, this guy's a Gallagher. If there's a 5'9" prospect coming along that wasn't afraid to get hit in front of the net, will go to all the dirty places, competed his ass off at all times. Any prospect coming up in the past 12 years that was 5'9" and played like he was 6'2" and didn't care, it was Gallagher that they were compared to. Gallagher was the prototype. He was the cookie cutter, shape was Brandon Gallagher. So that you couldn't give a higher compliment to a player than that, and it made us proud that 2010 draft class was not was not an all-time great, but we're very proud that in the 5th round we got a gem in Brandon Gallagher, and he ended up making that draft class, palatable, uh, all on his own. A 14-year career, wears a letter for since 60, so more than a decade. A decade of wearing a letter for the Montreal Canadiens and wearing it proudly. So, Brendan, all the best in Vancouver. I wish you all the best. I hope you have a good year, and you end your career on a better note than you ended this past season. Emil, it will be good for Galley to experience a new organization for a year, especially if he wants to do something in retirement. Absolutely. Folks, we're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers, down to double digits here now. I think 75 or so we need to hit 5,000. I'm going to make a push on Twitter. That usually helps. But you folks that are watching this that who haven't subscribed yet, please take the time to click that subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything, and it would be much appreciated as I attempt to get over the 5,000 mark. That's kind of been, my goal this season, get it up to 5,000 subscribers. We've got a couple of thousand so far since the launched Habscast, and it'd be great if we can get it up over the 5,000 subscriber mark. Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in to this morning podcast of Habscast. It was fun. I will be doing something tomorrow for sure. I don't know at what time. Probably what I'll do is whenever something happens of note, I'll come on and maybe do a fairly long show and kind of follow, the free agent frenzy type thing. Yeah, I'm going to work on the podcast on Canada Day, because it's always a very eventful day, right? The first day of free agency. So I'll be doing a lengthy podcast tomorrow, and hope you can join me. I'll put up as soon as basically what I'll be doing is I'll put up a link fairly early, let people know when I'll be starting my my broadcast. Hey, something big happens, you look for the Habscast soon after, because I will I'll come on board here and cover it as soon as something significant happens over the next 24 hours. Okay, all right. Look for that video on Klimke. I'm going to look at Cooper Cleaves and Runso as well. Get some videos up on my Patreon page. I'll put the link to my Patreon page in the description for this video, for this podcast as well. And if you haven't subscribed yet, $5 Canadian. We're going to have tons of coverage, and we're going to have articles on acquisitions that the Canadians make, hopefully over the next month too, that as they try to piece together a contender here. All right, everyone, thank you so much. Great day to talk hockey. Tomorrow's going to be an even better day to talk hockey. If something breaks today, I'll come back on and do another podcast today even. So, all right, thank you, everyone, and enjoy your day.